Welcome to this video edition of Is It Beer Yet? I am Matt, and this is the start of our 13 beers for Halloween from neozaz.com, starting with beer number 1, the very first one I brewed, called Twisted Tater Too. Now, as that name kind of implies, this is the second beer to bear the name Twisted Tater. And why I did this one first was because when I went to brew the first Twisted Tater, I was short a specialty grain, and that beer needed this particular specialty grain. We'll get into what that beer is and why it needed it when we get to that one, but suffice it to say, I couldn't brew that if I wanted to make the beer I wanted for that particular Twisted Tater, but I did have everything I needed for Twisted Tater 2. Now, could I have just done another beer and left everything, the names in chronological order, have Twisted Tater come first before Twisted Tater 2? Turns out I could have. I didn't think of that when I went and brewed this. So we're off to a weird start. I know, the names are a little out of order, but this is the only one that has any reference to a number, and it's not even a number, it's kind of a play on words, or I guess a pun. So it doesn't get as confusing as I'm making this. I'm actually making this worse, so I'm just gonna stop talking about the whole name switch. Let me tell you about the inspiration for this beer. All the beers, except for the very last one, again, we'll get to that when we get to it, are inspired by Halloween Horror Nights in one way or another. Most of them Halloween Horror Nights 28, some just the event in general, and then one that harkens back to an older one. This one is named after the greatest snack they serve at Halloween Horror Nights, a Twisted Tater. And what it is a small potato that's spiral cut. It's actually on the label, which we're gonna take a closer look at here. It's a spiral cut potato, deep fried, seasoned in all kinds of different flavors. You have seasoned salt, sour cream and chives. I think there's a cheddar, or you just get a combination of all of them or some of them. It is the best grab and go food at Halloween Horror Nights. That's the name inspiration. The idea actually comes from an ingredient found in both beers. Both beers feature the Idaho No. 7 hop. And the idea here is, which probably is already, it's almost self-explanatory. When you think of Idaho and you think of things grown in Idaho, potatoes is what comes to mind, not hops. We're taking the idea that the hops used in both beers are grown in Idaho. Again, the association with potatoes, and using that as the idea behind the name, or I should say the inspiration behind the name Twisted Tater. This particular one, like I said, it's in both beers, but this one is featuring the hop. This is the only hop in the beer, the Idaho No. 7. It was featured throughout the entire boil, no other hops. The grain bill is actually pretty simple. It's a showcase for the hop. It's an opportunity for me. I've never used Idaho 7 until this project, and I really wanted to see what it brought to brewing, because I might want to use it again somewhere down the line. The first Twisted Tater doesn't necessarily showcase that hop alone, so I made a beer that is the hops used several times in the boil, and we're kind of going to see what it brings to the entire beer when all's said and done. That's why this second beer, this opportunity to really find out what this hop can do in terms of bittering, aroma, and taste. So in the end, with that single hop and the grain bill, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, this ends up being, by style definition, a double IPA with a pretty significant IBU. It's 93 IBU. So let's get in to where the hops fit in and what grain bill we used. And I have videos that go along with this list and along with some of the brewing process I went through to make this beer. So let's start off with, we're looking at the base malts here. That's 2 pounds, 9.6 ounces of 2-row pale malt. Now I'm gonna mention real quick, as I go through this grain bill, I had made this recipe for a 5-gallon batch thinking that this might be something I want more people to try. So I made the 5-gallon batch, then let the Beersmith software scale it down to 1 gallon. That's why these numbers are so specific. So let's keep going here. Specialty malts. We got 3.2 ounces of 60L crystal malt and 3.2 ounces of carapils. I double milled those malts. Then I brought 2.75 gallons of water up to 163 degrees. When I added them into the mash tun, or the bag tun, as I'm calling it in this series, and stirred, that brought everything down to 154 degrees, and then I sealed it up for 60 minutes, let it rest, let it do its thing. While I waited, I measured out the hops. Again, all Idaho 7 hops that you're seeing here. So I measured out 1.9 ounces to put in at 60 minutes, specifically for bittering, 0.09 ounces at 30 minutes, 0.28 ounces at 15 minutes, and then the last of that full ounce, and that last addition, 0.1 ounce at 1 minute. So after the mash was over, I removed the bag, drained it for a few minutes, did a little bit of vorloffing. That's where I took about, I'd say about a gallon of the sweet wort that's in there, poured it over the grains to kind of remove the bigger pieces of the grains and husks that slipped through the bag. Transferred all that into the boil kettle, got about a little more than 2.5 gallons. I'd said about maybe 2.6, didn't measure it by the ounce. That's about what I say I got out of it. I wanted to go outside and brew, but as you can see here, it was raining pretty heavy too when I was ready to boil. So I brought it inside, brought the kettle up to a boil on our electric stove. This takes a little longer than on gas, but it's 2.5 gallons more or less. So it didn't take super long. It actually really didn't take all that much longer than gas, to be honest with you. I could never do this with a 5-gallon batch on a stove. That's too much. Got it up to a rolling boil. Once the boil was rolling, started adding the hops. So here we go. Here's the first edition at 60 minutes. Then the second edition at 30. Third edition at 15. And then that final fourth edition at the last minute of that boil. So from there, I chilled the wort down to about 70 degrees, maybe a little less. Once I hit that 70, it drops pretty fast. I pitched 3.3 grams of Safale US05 dry yeast, all dry yeast in all these beers. I'll probably mention that over and over again, but thought I'd lay it out there. Fermented for 12 days, then cold crashed it for 2 days in about 42 degrees in my beer fridge. Bottled. Bottle condition, I added corn sugar to each bottle and let it sit at room temperature for 3 weeks or so as it carbonated. It's been in the fridge for, I'd say this one's probably been in there about a month now at this point, being the first one. And here we are, we're now at tasting. So before we do, as I'm looking at the label, it is, you can see this thing is ready to be, I think you can see it's ready to be drank. It is sweating because it's actually quite warm in this studio, but we'll go through the label real quick here. So the front of the label, that's the Twisted Taters. Those are the spiral cut potatoes I was talking about. And there's a Twisted Tater Too logo over it. On the left-hand side of the label, this is where I like to have a little fun with the label, is say hops, a lot of them. Getting our hands on the Idaho 7 hops gave us a chance to have fun with the name. But this hop is no joke and deserves to be showcased. For the second go-round, we crank up the IBUs to 93.3 to showcase the hop and blow your tongue off. And then my serving suggestion for this particular beer says, pour in the glass, jam taters into mouth. I probably should have said Twisted Tater. I think I did, but I ran out of room. So, yeah, this'll help wash down taters too. They don't have to be twisted. On the other side of the label, the right side, this is where it's a little more serious. I say, in this second incarnation of Twisted Tater, we wanted to feature the Idaho number 7 hop to see what new Humulus lupus, I think I said that right, brought to brewing. That's obviously the technical, is it the botanical or chemical term? I'm sure I should get that answer before I do my next one. It goes on, we made a simple malt base of pale malt and a dash of caramel 60, then let the hops do their thing. All right, this thing, I am afraid to touch the label because I'm afraid I'm going to smear all the ink off it. So let's get to it. It does have its own cap. I don't know if you can see that from the camera. I might have to throw up a still shot for that. But let's first see if we got some carbonation. Oh yeah, we do. Ooh, it's coming right off the bottle too. So this, I need to explain this glass. This looks like a weird glass to taste beer with. It's kind of tradition. Every beer I've made has been tasted in a glass like this. I have four of them now. And I'm not saying every beer I've made has come out perfect, but it's not an element I want to mess with traditionally. So it's a little bit of superstition here. So I'll be tasting all the beers in glasses like this. So all right, let's take a taste. Ooh, oh man, it's quite effervescent. I don't know if that's coming up on the camera, but the carbonation is rolling up from the bottom of the glass. So let's see what we got here. Didn't even really need to pour that aggressively to get quite ahead on there. So let's check out the aroma first. It's actually quite, it's hoppy like I expected. I thought it was going to be quite overwhelming, but it's not. It's quite pleasant. Herbal, little, just a touch floral, earthy. I would say it's probably earthy, and that's probably the strongest one now. Earthy is coming out, and just I'm actually getting the alcohol roll off there. And I didn't note on the bottle, I think it came out to really close to 6.5%. It's a bigger beer than I intended, but so a little bit of the alcohol is coming off in the aroma too. So very pleasant aroma. So let's take a taste. I can say right off the bat, the mouthfeel is pretty amazing. I was quite surprised how much I was getting that nice tingle of alcohol. The carbonation is really, really complementing the taste on there. The malt flavors, and I'm not expecting a lot of malt. I'm not getting it, but I am getting that nice base pale malt on there with a lot of complementary hops on it. So I need to take a better taste to really describe this, I think. On the palate, it's quite, there's a sting of bitter and a little bit of that, the floral I mentioned in the aroma is more in the taste. And I don't mean like I do mean flower for floral. It's not overwhelming, it's barely there. What's there is the bitter, a little bit of floral, and the earthiness at the end. It's actually, for it being very strong flavors, it's oddly refreshing in this hot studio, which I'm finding very surprising because usually a bitter beer is not what I go to cool off, but for some reason it's working in this. I'm going to try to take one more taste, see if I'm pulling anything out of the malts or if it's all hops. Mainly hops is what's doing it for this beer. The malts are definitely carrying it. The pale malt, that's a strong, proven base malt. The caramel 60s maybe giving it more color than anything else. The hops, this is a hoppy beer, but it's not a palate wrecker. This is quite pleasant for a 93. I think my 93 might be a little high. This is by calculation, but it's a very high hop beer. For being a high hoppy beer, it's quite pleasant. So I will say I'm a little relieved with saying now I have one beer I'll be very happy to share with people, especially my co-host from Neozaz when they come to Halloween Horror Nights. So I think I can safely say, I'm not even going to safely say it, I'm going to say it. 1 for 13. There's no goose egg in this. I'm happy. The rest can be bad. I don't want them to be bad. They can be because we're not coming out with the goose egg. I was distracted because I don't know if you're seeing this, how much carbonation is rolling out the bottom of this glass. I really just wasn't expecting that. I don't know why I'm so surprised by that and enthralled by it, but apparently I find it visually appealing. So anyway, that's it for this one. This was Twisted Tater 2. I'll be back tomorrow with beer number 2. That is Chainsaw Splatter, and all the details on that will be in the next episode. So thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching Is It Beer Yet Video Edition. Is It Beer Yet is part of the neozaz.com Internet Entertainment Network. Visit neozaz.com for all our podcasts, including the original Is It Beer Yet home brewing audio series. Follow our social media pages for more on this project and all the beers and brewing we do at neozaz.com. We're Neozaz Podcasts on Facebook, Neozaz on Instagram, and Neozaz on Twitter. If you'd like to learn how you can help support the work we do and get access to exclusive content, check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/neozaz. And you can always send us an email at podcast@neozaz.com. Thanks again for watching.